Welcome to This is Jax. I'm your host, Navy veteran realtor Nate Riggs. Hey, listen, picture this. You're ready to plant your roots in Jacksonville, but the housing market feels like a maze. On this episode of This is Jax, we're your guide. We're breaking down what's happening nationally, what it means for Northeast Florida, and how you can score a home with tricks like down payment assistance and buyer leverage. Plus, we'll show you why owning here is still a smarter move over renting. So if you're ready, let's dive in. If you're a first-time listener, be sure to subscribe, turn on your notifications. I've set a goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, and we're well on our way, but it would mean the world to me to have you as a listener. All right, so today, 2.0, Trevor Harrington, welcome. Listen, for you guys listening, you don't know, but this is the second time we record this because somebody in the room, me, didn't have Trevor's mic on. I don't know. We had it on, but it didn't capture it, and so here we are again. We're putting this work in for you, the listener.
All good, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Tell me a little bit. I'm on here all the time, but this is your first time hopping on here with me. We've obviously worked.
Actually, but yeah.
Well, second. We work together a lot, both personally. We've played guitar together on stage a whole bunch, and now we're jumping on in here. So for those listening that don't know you, maybe give us a little background.
Yeah, man. 14-year mortgage veteran with Future Home Loans. We're a local mortgage broker here, based out of Jax Beach. So if you see a little future signs, we're out there if you're out of the beach anytime. But yeah, man, love what I do. I just have a guitar player as well. But, we are a veteran-owned company. We love working with vets. We have decades of experience working with veterans, helping them get into homes. And not even just homes, but also like helping them with like tax benefits of being a veteran or any other needs they need with getting connected with the regional loan centers, things like that. We're helping vets in any way that we can. So really near and dear to what we do at Future.
Sweet, man. Sweet. I love it. I love working with you guys. It's super easy. And we've had people just listen. If you're out there listening or you're one of our future or current clients, we've done a ton of deals and we've had people show up kind of with their other pre-approvals. And then once we've put them into your system, you're able to show them where they can really save money, where they can really win working with you guys. So appreciate that. Let's talk about what's going on national. So navigating national housing market, there's a lot of doomer boomers out there. What are the opportunities and risks for Jacksonville homebuyers? The first thing I want to get into is this MBA, mortgage application increase, in the latest MBA weekly survey. Now, this is the week of April 9th, 2025, but we've combed through these articles and this data, and now we're just getting the opportunity to sit down and record it for you. But some key takeaways from this article here, and I'll have the articles all linked below, and any of the charts that we're going to talk about are easy to find. But the biggest application jump since January 2025, we saw a 20% increase, Trevor, in loan applications. So this kind of means, hey, we're seeing some signals. And then to couple with this, I just got off a coaching call with my business coach that I work with, who works with several other real estate agents, and he's kind of saying that what I'm saying is echoing. We're starting to see movement where we might have a really busy late spring season, summer season. What do those mortgage applications mean to you, Trevor, when you're sitting here in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I mean, I think it means a couple things. We're moving into the busier season. We're nearing the summer. I think my kids, which I've got 5 kids, but they are going to be getting out of school here within the next month or so. And that's a lot of families as well. So I think it's the time people are really starting to pull the trigger. Mortgage rates were the lowest they've been in really the last 6 months. We did see a little tick up last week with all the kind of tariff stuff that was going on. But again, it was more of a knee-jerk reaction. We've seen a pretty big dip back down in the last few days. So I think those will settle around there. But I think it's just time that people are ready to make a move. And rates are favorable for where they are now. So we're seeing applications rise. We're seeing refis, start to rise again from some folks that might have bought at a higher point. And so I think it's a really good time, for people to be purchasing a home.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about the VA loans because we work with, obviously here in Jacksonville, we have 2 Navy bases, and it's a big part of our community, both active duty and veteran. But this article also touched on the fact that these applications grew 9%, conventional loans. So that the conventional loans made up a huge portion, is what I'm trying to say, of these. So there's not just that, and for our conventional loan clients as well, we see that they're starting to kind of make movement. And this is all national data, right? But it kind of trickles down, and we're going to get into Jacksonville data, and then we're going to get into some tricks. A big thing too, you talked about how the rates kind of took a dip. And a key there was that refi, it looks like 40% of those applications were refi people. So it's hard to believe that people missed out on the refi, or maybe they bought a house after rates went up and they were able to come down. I know you helped me with the VA Earl. We closed at 7.1. Rates were what they were, which again, where I'm going to put this out here, put it out all the time. All time average is 7.8. So I already got a below average rate at 7.1. This is something you've got to keep in mind. And then you were able to help us refinance down to 5.75 when they took a dip last year. We saw that same thing happen a couple weeks ago when it was moving. And the key point I want to talk about, Trevor and me, once we close on your home, you'll find that we might be sending you some emails, monthly update emails, weekly newsletters. I'm going to be calling you every 3 months. Hey, and I'm going to be, and it might seem like I come bugging you, but the point of this is you want to, regular communication with your realtor and your mortgage broker. This is what's going to happen. So due to our market shifts where we saw market shifts. Normally they kind of shift over time, but with the volatility, honestly, that we've been having from day to day, they're shifting sometimes hours to hour, right? And so it's key to have us in your pocket so that we're communicating with you. Hey, this is what I want in the future. And we know, Trevor, I'm sure you were able to help some people
Yeah,
get
I
some
mean,
refi done.
and you got to realize too, people are busy, right? I mean, we are looking at this every day because it's what we do. But the
It's our
average,
job.
yeah, the average person is going to work. They're taking their kids to soccer and everything else, and don't have time to keep an eye on these things. Plus, a lot of times you can miss those windows. So, I mean, if you've got somebody that's out there looking out for your best interest, like, hey, now might be a good time. What does it look like?
Right.
We're there for you. We've got tools. So I do send a report out each month to clients that I've closed that kind of gives them analysis of their home, lets them know like, hey, here's what your estimated current value is. If you wanted to rent your home out, here's what it could rent for. If you want to take a HELOC out in your home, here's how much you might be able to get. If you want to see where
Yeah.
rates are, here's some options for you. So that stays in front of you every month where you're not having to go and even call me up and say, hey, man, what do the rates look like? You've got all there basically with an interactive report you get every single month within your email. So great tool that we offer to our clients we work with.
Right. And, Trevor, you said you have 5 kids. I got 4 kids. The good thing about that is if I want to have like a birthday party, I only have to invite like your family. And then like the party's full, right? We're like in the double digits. Anyway,
It's
um,
never be alone. Yeah.
but the key to that is like we're busy guys. So I know sometimes like I might need a new lawn care service or I might need to set something up. And dude, how many times is my wife like, did you call that person? I'm like, oh man, I just didn't get to it yet. And so we understand that same thing's happening in your life. And so that's why we're putting it on our calendar to like call you, because I understand you might have been thinking about it for 2 or 3 weeks, but you haven't got the time to reach out to us. And so we like to be a little proactive and make sure we're reaching out to you. So our plan is to create life clients to where once we help you find that home, we're going to help you stay on track of your finances, stay on track of your investments. And then if it's time to sell or if you need to move and buy a second home and rent that one out, we want to handle that whole process for you, that life client thing. So talking about this article specifically, there is some MBA data screams opportunity, but also urgency, right? Because it talks not only about the new purchase, but the refi. And so while in the new purchase environment, yeah, sure, we're seeing a little bit more inventory. It's starting to tick up. I've got a chart for that. And by the way, even though we see inventory tick up and people are talking about how dangerous it is, we're still so far below 2019, 2017, 2018, 2019, the last normal years of real estate, that we're really kind of just approaching a normal market. So the inventory levels we're seeing are more towards a healthy level. And sure, homes aren't flying off the shelf. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's a good, healthy amount of inventory. So you can take your time shopping. But on the other hand, if you're looking to, if you already own a home and you're looking to refinance, there is some urgency in that because, what kind of window do you have to lock in those rates when you see them drop?
Yeah, it's really got to be quick. Um, and in a traditional, I would say, a normal market, you're not seeing these mountains and valleys, but we
Right.
have seen rates that are in mountains and valleys. When the whole tariff thing was announced, rates went to the mountain, right? And then they kind of settle that out. They've kind of come, closer to back to the valley. So we're in this really volatile rate market right now.
That's right.
You got to strike while the iron is hot. And to that point, I mean, vets have a lot of protection when it comes, to having the ability to refinance. So we talked about the EARL, which is interest rate reduction refinance
Yeah.
loan. It is available to every veteran. So if you have a VA loan, you're protected. You don't have to requalify. You don't have to do an appraisal. It's very simple. So even if rates are a little higher now, you've got reassurances that you'll have the ability, if the rates do get lower, to be able to take advantage of that. And so right now we're in this market of homes are on the market longer. It's a really an advantage to buyers. So if you're on the fence, why would you want to wait for rates to drop down when then everybody else is sitting on the sideline? So now that house that you wanted and the rates drop, now you want to go after it. Well, so does 10 other people. So you're
Right.
losing the advantage you might have had as a buyer. So with that protection as a veteran to refinance, why would you not go out and get a home now? I think it's the best time to buy a home now.
That's right. You can get ahead of it. And listen, we're going to talk about some charts later where we talk about like if you're purchasing a home the right way with the intent to live in the home for your average, we would say 3 to 5 years, but even the 7 to 10 years, like owning that home in a 10-year time period, regardless of listen, even people who bought a home before the 2008 market crash and they lived in that home for 10 years, they saw appreciation. So even though they saw great appreciation and then that crash, once it came back, they still saw appreciation at the end of that time. So we've got to get out of this short-term mindset and start thinking long-term mindset, and you're going to win. We're going to talk about this next article, the R word, making headlines again. This is recession. So before we get into this is an article by realtor.com. I want to talk a little bit about the path that we were on, really what was going on in the economy. I don't care what side of the politics you were on, but what was happening was unsustainable, right? So something had to give, and we're seeing the administration focus on like that. Whether you agree with every decision they're making or not, it doesn't matter. There will be some short-term pain. That's kind of anytime there's a market adjustment, anytime there's a correction in the market, there's short-term pain, but the benefit is long-term gain. While others are selling off the stock market, there's people out there that are buying. And guess what happens? Once it comes back around, they're going to be sitting on mountains of money. The same thing happens in real estate, right? So there's no other way to view it. Talking about recession specifically, in the last 4 out of 5, nominal home prices either rose or held steady. The exception is the Great Recession. That's 2008, right, as the outlier. But it was due to its housing specific collapse. That's what caused the recession. But in all the other recessions, like this recession that we're talking about possibly happening, or are we in it already? It's not related to housing. So historically, housing performs well because as people have fears from the stock market, they can take that money out of the stock market and they'll put it into housing. So tariffs could also force prices up. You got construction costs. The article does talk about this, especially with all this kind of Chinese imports and stuff. It could raise building materials. We'll have to see. But for the Navy audience, this means homes and jacks could get a little pricier later on, which again, to your point, would make it smart. The money, if you're worried about the interest rate money and you wait and then interest rates came down, but in that time the price of homes went up, your payment might be the equivalent. Where if you got locked into a rate now at a lower cost on the home and maybe a slightly higher interest rate, and then later you're able to do that EARL, now your payment comes down versus the other way around, right? That's kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah, and really, I can't remember where I read it. It was an article this week, but they talked about people that had kind of held tight during these periods of time with the Great Recession, um, and some of these other kind of fiscal events that have happened. Um, the ones that bailed and like I'm getting out of it, or I'm selling my stocks, or I'm selling my house or whatever, they lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Every single instance, folks that kind of held on to their assets were the ones that saw, massive gains, once we kind of moved on from these events that have happened. So, I mean, to this point, again, you're buying in a market where prices have come down, where, it is more of a buyer's market. There's more of an advantage to you getting in now. Again, if prices go up, you're gaining equity right away.
Right.
And so I think folks that are just going to wait on the fence, continue to rent. As we all know, rent is 100% interest. You can rent for 10, 20 years because you have the analysis paralysis. You're afraid to make a decision.
Yeah.
And of that, you have nothing to show for it. With a home, And anytime I invest in real estate in my life, it's the most money I've ever made at one time. So
Yeah.
like,
I'm going to an appointment today with an individual who bought a house in 2012. And then we did see a lot of inflation during the last 10 years. So they've owned this house 13 years, and doing their net sheet, and I'm like, let me just see how much appreciation. There's a formula to do it. If you want to do it on your home, I'm glad to help you out. But I looked at it, and her appreciation averaged 8.4% annually on the house just here in Jacksonville. All she had to do was live in it if she didn't lift a finger. And that's based on an average price. The sold prices are $199 a square foot, and I priced her house at $199 a square foot. I'm not talking like, hey, at max value, this is what you can get.
yeah,
I did like the average numbers, 8.4. It's a no-brainer. And all she had to do was live there. You got to pay to live somewhere. If she would have rented for all that time, or rented for 5 years and then purchased later, her appreciation would be a much lower amount. And if you rented for 13 years, it'd be zero. You would have just lost that money.
yeah. And
So
buying's a double-edged sword, right? So you're paying principal, your loan balance is coming down, your value is going up. So people just compare it always to, oh well, I could rent out to make this down payment or whatever it is, but you forget about the part that your house is appreciating at the same time that you're paying down your balance. So
yeah.
like going both ways, in your favor. Not to mention, and I'm not a CPA, but mortgage interest is also a tax write-off. So, you know,
Well,
those
okay, and go
that,
talk to your financial advisor, because they'll be bragging out of their butt cheeks about a 4.3% annual appreciation on your high yield savings account. And that's fine. You should also have your high yield savings account. So I'm not saying don't have that. But I mean, a solid return is 4.3% on your, high yield savings. So now if you compare that to, she was making double that on this house. And many such cases, a lot of people that I'm meeting with are seeing the same thing. Some charts to back this up. Listen, to 2025 home price forecast chart. We are in a little bit of a housing recession, a little bit. We are in one. We've been in one for 2.5 years now. But even with that, prices have not gone backwards. They have just slowed. So instead of seeing an unhealthy 30% appreciation, from several different resources, the lowest amount projected is like a 1.5% appreciation. So yes, there will be low years and then there will be high years, but as an average, we see you're getting a good return. I've got that chart. I've also got a home chart by decade. That's the one I touched on earlier. And then this big one, S&P 500 chart. You'll see all these people pointing to this tariff situation where like, oh, the market collapsed. But if we go back and we look at 2020 to 2024, there's several collapses just as big along there. I've got the picture uploaded. It's going to be the cover sheet of this YouTube video, so it's easy to find. But there's zero panic during that time frame because there were zero headlines about it. And in that time, S&P went way up, and now when it came back down, it's still higher than it was at the peaks 4 years ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. But now, because of the headlines, there's all this panic. So I just caution you to worry about that too. Another positive out of this, because of what the Fed pays attention to, and we talk about it all the time, the Fed doesn't really care about your housing prices. And it's not that they don't care because they're cold-hearted. It's just not necessarily part of their job. Ironically, even though they affect a huge part of it, the mortgage interest rates, their main concern is their dual mandate, which is what? Unemployment and inflation. So they want to get inflation down to 2%, and they want to get unemployment to a certain level. They actually want unemployment to go up a little bit. And then that's where they really feel like they need to lower the rates. But if we go into a recession, and that means inflation will drop, because if things aren't selling, supply and demand, price comes down. And then on the back end, people unfortunately lose their jobs, they'll drop rates. That's your rate cut right there that we just talked about. So there's some projection of that, and they're already starting to have meetings around that. Anything else, Trevor, on this like kind of article? I mean, we're talking here about another bit. I did want to talk about this. They printed a ton of money, and we've got that in there. So that's going to create that. And this is for our buyers out there who are maybe sold a home here in 2019, moved away, traveled around a little bit, and now they're back and they're saying like, I can't afford my own home. Unfortunately, like when you print a ton of money, like yes, prices will come down some or soften, but we're not going back to 2019 prices. It's just not going to happen.
yeah, and we got a lot of folks now, and maybe we'll segue into this next part, but like, well, I would love to buy, right? But I'm
Yeah.
not a veteran and I don't have enough money, or it would take me years to save up enough money to be able to have enough to purchase a home. So we've got a
Yeah.
solution for that as well. Now, veterans 100% can get financing. They don't need a down payment. So that's one of the main benefits of VA loan. But if you're not a veteran, then we've got down payment assistance options that are available.
Yeah.
They're not all created equal. It's not free money. So, a lot of times you're going to have a higher rate or you have to pay it back. But again, there's still opportunity there for you to get into a home and maybe without you having to do anything out of pocket. I had somebody just help recently that they've got a benefit through an FHA program that they could put solar on their home. And they give them up to $13,000 towards their down payment if they put solar on their home. So not only are you getting your down payment covered, but you're basically getting solar at a $13,000, discount. And
Yeah.
that helps you on utility bills. Now, that may not be for everybody because if you're going to sell the home in a few years, probably wouldn't be worth it. But long term,
Well, it goes back to that thing. If you're buying the home right and you're planning to live there 7 to 10 years or own the home 7 to 10 years, you can't lose with this.
yep. So, that's a really great program, but there are other ones out there that can be forgiven. I've got one that's forgiven after 5 years.
Hey, before let's back up a little bit before we get into that. I've got it on here. We'll get into it more, but I want to touch first, just real quick, because we got a lot of local listeners, and they might be wondering, like, okay, that's great. You told me it's national stuff, but what I'm seeing in the news is that Jacksonville inventory is up 66% in 1 month. So our inventory is insane. Yeah, inventory went up. This means there's more homes available, but I've got the data to show that we're still not at pre-pandemic levels. If you just look at the standalone chart that says where inventory is, you'll see, oh my gosh, inventory went through the roof. But then if you look at the chart that shows, okay, now let's compare it to pre-pandemic levels, we're still like 50% below that.
Yep.
So there's time to kind of shop, but it doesn't mean you need to be afraid to buy a house here in Jacksonville. It's not the booming inventory of 2008. The markets couldn't be different, and the circumstances that are led us to those two worlds are completely different. I'm going to have those in there. Demand is softening. So it's a cooling, which means there's less competition from other buyers. It makes it a strategic time to leverage those military benefits or those down payment assistance to get in a home before potential rates drop, because when they do, it's going to reignite interest, supply and demand. 101, we can't get away from it, right? So, and I want to talk to sellers a little bit, because we're talking a lot about buyers, but I know there's current homeowners out there, guys who have orders. We talk a lot to you guys who might have orders coming to Jax, but then I know you guys get orders away from Jax too. So you've got a decision to make. Am I going to rent this property out, roll it into an investment, or am I going to sell it? And if you're thinking about selling it, it's more important ever to ensure the condition of your home is better than the competition. And you got to be priced right, or else you're going to be overlooked by these buyers who are already feeling pinched. And then the last thing is your agent's got to be an expert. They got to bring top level negotiations and marketing, because your home has to be exposed. You got to get the right number of people in it. And that agent's going to be your advocate in your corner to make sure your home is ready, so that when those people come in, they like the home. Listen, I've got some listings right now in 30 days. We've only got 3 showings. And it's not because the home's not being marketed right. It's because that is the state of the market. That's the softening. And that is what gives buyers a little bit of leverage. But the key word is here, it's buyer friendly. A buyer can't just walk into the house and make any demand they want. They will still be turned away. And that's because a lot of these sellers are sitting on low interest rates and on mountains of equity. So they have no pressure to let it go for cheap. They just don't have to. But to the sellers, you've got to give a little bit more than a couple years ago when you could have a hole in the roof and it didn't matter. So that's that. Sorry, I just wanted to cover that, Trevor. Now I want to get into these strategies. I want to talk about these down payment assistance programs. Let's talk about that. You're starting to talk about the one that's forgiven over like a 5-year period.
Yep. So I'll give an example of one I have now. A really great family that had some money set aside, unfortunately had a financial emergency. So the money that they were going to use for the down payment, they no longer could use. And so we had to pivot. Again, with us being a broker, we have a bunch of lenders that we work with. It's easy for us to pivot. If I wasn't a broker, if that happened, if I don't have a down payment assistance program, I'd say, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Maybe they get discouraged. Maybe they don't buy a house. But in this case, we pivoted to a down payment assistance program. We had concessions of $14,000. They're doing a forgivable down payment assistance program, so they're using that $14,000 To get that rate a little bit lower is a higher rate because it's assistance, but it's forgiven after 5 years. So for them, they're not having to pay, it's about $11,000 out of their pocket. They're not having to pay closing costs because it's covered by the seller. They had an emergency. We pivoted. We worked it out for them. They're really bringing in almost no money to closing. So there are options if you've got a great agent, like Nate, that they can negotiate that to get those costs covered with no money out of pocket. It can be possible to be done. So there's those programs. There's others as well, and there are state ones that you can do, but most of the times the state ones have to be repaid. And so you have a little bit of an extra monthly payment you got to make for those, which isn't the end of the world. But again, there are options for those people that if they have the excuse of like, oh, I can't save the money up, we've got some solutions for that. Encourage you to explore them if you're in a position where maybe your lease is coming up and you want to buy a house, but you're not sure. I mean, that's the kind of discussions that we can have in different ways we can help you.
That's good. You kind of answered some of the questions, like I had a question, what role does your relationship with your mortgage broker play? And I mean, you kind of answered that right there. Like you're able to access these programs. It's not just like, if you just go to your credit union or to your bank, like you've got whatever program they have, but as a mortgage broker, you have access to different options where you're able to help people. And so
A
that's
no
really
there,
great.
you go to your credit union, a no there is a no. You're done.
That's it.
A lot of people after one no get discouraged. So like if you're already working with somebody, you get a no, like, hey, let's just hold on, we'll pivot. Let's see
Yeah.
what else we can go out there and who else we can help. And one of the other points I wanted to speak to vets that are getting orders, somewhere else. So a lot of folks don't know, but the VA is not a one and done, right? You can have multiple VA at
Mm.
the same time.
Myth
Um,
busting. We're doing a little myth busting
a
here,
little
if
bit,
you
yeah.
will. So go ahead.
Yeah. So you have something called entitlement as a veteran. We won't get all the calculations of that, but it is possible for you to have two VA loans at the same time and to do 100% financing. So I have somebody right now that has orders in Jacksonville. They bought a house, around COVID time frame, so they got a really low rate. But they got orders now to go to Eglin, out near Pensacola, and they're going to rent their house out. Well, he's going to be able to rent his house and get another VA home loan, 100% financing, without having to do a down payment. So, and really through that, he's got now a rental property and a primary home basically
Yeah.
through the VA where he didn't have to make a down payment on either one. So, I mean, they're really great options if you're smart, if you work with the right people that can really help you to build for your financial future.
Listen, and we're not lying here. If you want more information on this, just comment below. Tell me what your thoughts are. If you'd like some more information on learning how to use the VA loan to build some wealth, this is something that Trevor and I have talked about, and we've actually kind of put in motion some plans. And so hopefully we're able to roll those out eventually, where we have a whole system, whether it's your first year in the Navy or your 10th year in the Navy, or you got 5 years left, we can have a plan that's customized for you, and getting coaching through that program, because I would love nothing more. I love working with sellers. From the workload amount, it's very organized. It's a system that is like boom, 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 checklisted. The buy side is a little more navigation, a little more, variables in it, if you will. You see a great house online, you go there and, oh man, someone smoked in this house for 30 years. We can't get, there's unknown variables. As a seller, you've got systems to kind of like checklist, and then the buyers are coming to you, right? So I like that. But if I could get to a place where I never worked with a seller again, because all of my buyers went and bought a second home and a third home and a fourth home, and they utilized every benefit they have, whether it's down payments or whether it's a VA zero down to do it, then that would be, that would just be the best thing for me, to know that we're actually making a difference in people's like lives and futures to that level. I know investment real estate is not everybody's favorite thing, but for those that are into it, we would love to kind of work with you. So that's really important. That's a great way to capitalize on those special programs. And I know guys who are in the Navy and they have owned like, 4, 5, 6 houses, and they've bought them all zero down. So you can do it. There's a lot of myths out there about limits and how much you can get, or I can only use it once, so they don't buy right away. If I could go back in time, even myself, like I kind of waited to buy a nicer house for my first house. What I wish was I would have like bought a much cheaper house, maybe in an area that I thought I was buying a forever home, my first home. Doesn't even make any sense. And when I should have just bought like 1,000 square foot, 3 1.5 in the 32210 zip code right outside of base, and lived in it for 3 years, put in LVP floors, painted the place, and then boom, I could go buy another one and rent that one out. It would have been great.
Yeah.
VA Earl. How's this VA Earl work? Let's explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So Earl, it's not like, my cousin Earl living out in the ranch. It's Earl interest rate reduction refinance loan, IRRRL. This is kind of what we alluded to earlier. It's a streamlined refinance. So any veteran that's in a VA loan can basically do a rate reduction without requalifying, without an appraisal. It is streamlined. This means it's simplified in that way. The only caveat: you got to pay your mortgage on time, so you can't have any lates. But other than that, there's really they're not going to make you redo everything. So
Yeah.
it's about as
How late
guaranteed.
is late? Is that like
Yeah,
the
30 days.
60,
If
30
you
days late?
pay,
Okay.
if you pay outside the month that the payment is due, that's
Okay.
considered late. That's where they report.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. And it's a great program. And I've done it twice now. You helped me do it. And before I knew you moved away for a little bit, to be fair. But, we won't have to go there. You left me here. You just left me. Anyways, you're back, so it's good.
Correct.
But when I bought my first house and then we reduced it, and each time I've saved hundreds of dollars per month, and I'm living in these houses. So over the long run, there is a time frame, right? Because you want to there is some costs that are rolled in, so you'll save monthly, but there's a little bit of cost rolled in because you're closing on that new loan,
Yeah. So the
but you
VA stepped
recoup
in a
those.
little while back. Uh, there were vets that were being taken advantage of because they were basically rolling all of these costs in with minimal benefit to the veteran.
Tons of mail. Shred that mail. Call us, by the way.
Yeah. So they would say, well, now if you want to do this, Earl, this refinance, you've got to recoup your costs within a maximum of 36 months. So whatever
Yeah.
you're spending, you got to be saving enough where it's only going to take at a maximum 36 months to recoup. So it really protects the vets from just having minimal benefit because they maybe want to have a month layover before they have to make another payment. That's not considered a benefit. It's now looked at cost versus savings, and it's got to make sense for the vet.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's really good. Anything else that you want to, these are strategies to make sure you win as a buyer today. Obviously, we talked to sellers a little bit too, but, buyers are mostly interested in the markets more because it affects them more, right? I mean, it affects the seller too, but you get what I'm saying. It's your pocket. The sellers are kind of locked in. But any other programs or anything else, Trevor, before we kind of like give our key takeaways of the day?
Yeah, man, this is really tip of the iceberg. Future, we are experts in what we do. We don't just say that. We've been doing this a long time. This is not the only solution that we have for veterans. We work with really anyone and everyone. We've gotten special investment options, doing some bank statement loans now for people. So again, if you are kicking the tires on wanting to buy a home, we would love to explore the options for you. I would say, really, in a lot of cases, if it could be done, we can do it.
Yeah.
Really,
Right. In a 0 to 3 month timeline is great. Yeah, sure. Everybody loves a 0 to 3 month timeline when it kind of just falls in your lap, but that's the low hanging fruit. And we go deeper than that. Listen, if you're on a 2 year timeline, we want to get in touch with you. And when it starts to happen, because Trevor, you might be able to find things. Hey, listen, we're going to need you to pay this card off, or we're going to need you to save up this amount of money for closing costs, because closing costs are a thing. And a lot of veterans, that's another kind of myth. Hey, it's zero down. And it is zero down on the loan, but there's still a closing cost fee. These are taxes. These are real estate fees, attorney fees that are part of it, right? And we can negotiate those into the loan where the seller, this is where we talk about the buyer has some advantages and some leverage. Right now, we can negotiate those, but we can't always negotiate 100%. And so if you don't have that money saved up, so that's why it's important. If you're on a 12-month plus timeline, if you're on a 6 to 12 month timeline, don't wait. Get in touch with us today.
yeah. And I mean, to the sellers out there that think that there's something wrong with the VA loan or that they take longer or that they cost more money,
Bro,
it
why?
does not. It does not. I don't know why that's a thing, but it is. I have closed VA loans really quickly, and so
So, I
don't
mean,
don't.
it's the easiest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's work on our end, but like I mean, listen, I work with other people too where financing falls through a lot. And I'm here to tell you, you're right. Of active duty guy, he's got a contract job. He's got a guaranteed paycheck. He's got his loans pretty guaranteed. The debt to income, there's some more allowances that are a little bit more lenient to help people get in a home because we as a nation know that homeownership is a key to wealth building, right? So looking out for our service members. Key takeaways for buyers. Listen, focus on your long-term gains. Don't just think in the short term. If you do it right, if you're buying a home to live in 7 to 10 years, you cannot lose. I want to talk a little bit. Everybody's got HGTV, house hunters, house flippers, bigger pockets. They've caused everyone to get into this like investment short-term kind of mindset where like, oh, if I bought a house this year, I would have paid more than next year. Like, okay, but are you buying it to flip or are you buying it to invest or are you buying it to live in? If you're buying it to live in, then that doesn't matter because we're on a long-term timeline anyways. So get in when you're ready, right? If you're looking for a house, don't just sit on the sidelines because some doom and gloomer or some investor is giving you a different insight. Focus on doing it the right way. While market, and then here's some other thing. I've got those charts. They're going to be loaded up, your home price growth by the decade. And think of your home as like a bank account, right? So it is like an investment, but it's kind of like a bank account. You're putting money into it month over month. You got to pay to live somewhere. But with this, you get a return on it when you move away in the form of either selling it or renting it out and cash flowing it. Work with an expert who works with both buyers and sellers. So when you're interviewing an agent to help you with this process, there's a lot to it. On my site, I've got a link to 90 ways we serve you, and 1 through 57 are what get us all the way to writing the contract. And then there's the contract, and then there's everything after it. And so it is a big process. It's not just opening doors and saying, wow, look how cute these counters are. I really love the trending colors. There's a lot more to it if you want to win, okay? And market data lags, right? So like if you're just working with someone who's a buyer, they're reading even this stuff. We're talking about articles that came out 2 weeks ago. It takes time for this information to get out here. But as a listing agent, I also list a bunch of homes and I can tell you, hey, listen, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I've got 5 listings in this neighborhood and I can tell you the showings are very slow and the sellers are very motivated. So if you make an offer on this house, we've got a little more leverage to ask for a little bit more. That's where you're going to get those key insights that are in real. Everyone has a friend. We understand that, but you need to interview top agents. Don't just use an agent. Hire the right agent who's looking out for your future and your wallet, right? Any other key takeaways for buyers before we kind of touch on the sellers?
No, man, to buyers right now, strike while the iron is hot. If thinking about it, now is the time. You get into summer, it's going to get busier. It's going to be tougher. Less incentives that will be there. We're here to help you. Reach out to us, Future Home Loans. Me and Nate will take really great care of you, give you the best options service you can get out there, man. So really appreciate you having me on today, Nate.
Yeah, dude. Sellers, 3 things: condition, exposure, and price. 1 in 3 homes are going to expire right now. Expired listings are back. A couple years ago, if a house went on the market, hole in the roof, 20 grand over ask, doesn't matter. And there's debate whether that's artificial inflation by consumers or who was it? The corporate house flippers. But it doesn't matter. That market condition has gone away. We're in a market now where your home has to be in the best condition to sell. You've got to get the right exposure. That's where your agent comes in because they're able to market the home correctly and get a lot of people into the home. And then you've got to have the right price. Again, your agent should be giving you an honest value of that home. And when the market's coming down, because even though your appreciation is still going up, the home prices are coming down. You're still sitting on equity. You're not losing anything. When they come down, you don't want to chase them down, or you'll be chasing them down for 6 months. You're expired. You're off the market. Conditions, they're softening. So it's more important to be able to negotiate and be able to give a little bit to some buyers. We're in the peak season right now, right? But this year, we've got kind of an extended season because of all the market conditions. We're coming off of a election cycle. Historically, that's a very slow time to begin with. And this is kind of a new territory, but it's important to hire a good agent. So my thoughts are, real estate's a sure bet if you do it right. You focus on the long-term benefits. And we post all this information in a weekly blog. Just like we said, Trevor's got some emails he sends out. I send a weekly newsletter. I've got a blog on my website. The data, like these charts and stuff, they live on my X and on my Instagram. and on Facebook, all those places. So if you want to get in touch with us, we've got our contact information, our links below, or you can always head to my website, rigsgroupfl.com, fill out a registration card, and then we'll be able to get in touch with you. And if you want to come hang out with Trevor and me, listen, this is cool. Rigs Group Beach Fest, it's coming up. It's a free event. If you're here in town, June 8th, Sunshine Park in Jacksonville Beach. So for more information, register. Click the link in the show notes. There's an event right there with more information. We're going to be grilling and chilling. There's a splash pad playground. The beach is close by. Come say hey to us, grab some free food, hang out with your family, take them to the beach for the day.
My kids love Sunshine Park. If you guys haven't taken your kids out there,
It's
they
a
redid it. It used to be South Beach Park, and it was all kind of torn up, and now they redid it.
really great place.
Hard time getting them out of there when I go.
Skate park is killer.
Yeah.
About to start skating again.
And really nice fields over there for soccer, flag football, whatever. It's a really beautiful park.
Really nice. If you're in town, if you're one of our listeners, don't forget to swing by there. All right, Trevor, thanks so much for coming on. For you guys, the listeners, thanks so much for being here. Don't forget, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button. Share it with your friends who are moving to town or thinking about getting into some real estate. We'd love to have you as a listener. This is Jax. I'm Nate Riggs. That's Trevor Harrington. Thanks so much.